Mom, this isn't working anymore. That's how my son said it. Not with a hug, not with respect, with a shrug and his wife by his side like they'd rehearsed it. Tina didn't even make eye contact, just stood there, arms folded, holding a mug that said, "Family first." The irony. Maybe, maybe it's time you looked into a smaller place, something more your size. I was standing in my own kitchen when he said it, the same kitchen where I used to braid his hair before school, the same kitchen where I made every Christmas pie, the same kitchen I helped pay for. I wasn't sure I'd ever share this. For a long time, I kept it quiet, tucked away with all the other things I've swallowed in silence. But today, I found the courage to speak it, to own it, to finally say, "This happened to me." If this story touched you, if it made you feel seen, please subscribe. Not for clicks, but as a small sign of acknowledgement that my voice mattered today and that sharing this pain meant something. Thank you for listening. Truly. They said it kindly, of course, like they were doing me a favor, like they were the ones sacrificing. And maybe that's the worst part. They didn't scream, they didn't argue, they dismissed me like expired milk, still sealed, but no longer useful. I didn't cry, not there. But later, in the guest room, they shoved me into a window cracked, no curtain. I let the silence eat me whole. That night, I remembered something I had almost forgotten. My name is still on the deed. I had co-signed the mortgage 5 years ago when they couldn't qualify a loan. Back then, I sold my car, drained my savings, even pulled from my pension, because Alex said, "Mom, this house will be a home for all of us." I believed him. I gave him everything. And now, I was a burden, invisible, disposable, inconvenient. But here's what they didn't expect. I don't raise my voice. I don't throw things. I don't beg. I plan. And when I saw the "for sale" sign go up across the street 3 weeks later, I didn't tell a soul. I just walked over, met the realtor, signed the papers, and handed over the full amount in cash. No loan, no cosigner, no approval needed. Because if they didn't want me in their home, fine. I'd make my own right where they could see it. Every single day. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about roots and what happens when you try to cut down the tree that made your entire house possible. You don't get to push me out of the story I helped write. You don't get to silence me just because I stopped yelling. You forgot something, Alex. I built you. And builders don't beg. I didn't start out needing much, just a corner of the house and a place to put the kettle. When I moved in, Alex said, "It's temporary, Mom, until you're back on your feet." What he forgot was, I never fell. I gave up my apartment because they needed help. Logan was a newborn. Tina was overwhelmed. Money was tight. So I offered what mothers always offer: time, stability, presence. I moved into their unfinished guest room, the one with no closet and paint cans still on the floor. I unpacked it into 2 drawers and kept the rest in boxes. Tina didn't say thank you. She said, "We'll get it sorted soon." I never asked again. Instead, I folded diapers, ran errands, and paid the water bill once when Tina forgot. I babysat while they went to dinner. I watched their dog when they flew to Mexico. I watered their plants, picked up their prescriptions, kept quiet when they fought at night, and louder when they didn't. And when Logan had colic, I was up all night. Not once did I complain. I adjusted. That's what mothers do, right? We shrink to fit. We make room. We let go of things no one notices. Our space, our schedule, our silence. I gave up my book club, my garden, my savings. I stopped seeing friends who said, "Don't you feel taken advantage of?" I told them, it's family, it's what you do. But here's the thing nobody tells you about becoming the extra set of hands. You stop being a person. You become the background, unnoticed when you're there, only missed when you're gone. I started noticing little things. They stopped setting a place for me at dinner, started eating without calling me down, left for Logan's school recital without asking if I wanted to come. It was subtle, but it stung. Then one day, Tina said, "You know, it's confusing for Logan having 2 moms around." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. She didn't smile. They started calling me Maureen in front of him. Not Grandma, not Mom, just Maureen, like I was a tenant, or worse, a stranger. I bit my tongue, swallowed my pride, told myself, they're just overwhelmed. But deep down, I knew. I had given everything. And now I was nothing more than furniture, quiet, useful, replaceable. But here's what they missed while trying to erase me from the picture. I was never just in the frame. I held the damn camera before Tina ever lit a candle on that dining table, before Logan ever took his first steps on those creaky wooden floors. That house was mine, not on paper, not legally, but in all the ways that matter. Alex grew up in that living room. His baby teeth were buried in the backyard under the lilac bush. There's still a crayon drawing under the kitchen table. He scribbled it there when he was 5. A stick figure family with Mommy plus me written in purple marker. I left it there, never scrubbed it off. Not because I was sentimental, because I was rooted. That house was more than brick and drywall. It was the story of us. I remember staying up late during thunderstorm nights, holding Alex close while the wind rattled the windows. We had no power, but we had flashlights and marshmallows, and each other. We'd sit on the couch and whisper secrets like it was a fort. One time I caught him sneaking cookies from the pantry. He froze when I walked in. I said nothing, just poured us both a glass of milk and sat beside him. He looked at me and said, "You're the nicest mom in the world." That memory lives in that hallway, and now Tina uses it to store her air fryer. I remember birthdays I couldn't afford but pulled off anyway. Paper streamers, dollar store balloons, and cupcakes baked in a pan that barely fit in my old oven. He loved every single one. I remember when he brought Tina over for the first time. She was nervous. I gave her the biggest slice of pie like it was a peace offering. She didn't eat it, said she was gluten-free, but she smiled politely. I thought it was a good start. And when they bought the house, they called me, breathless with excitement. "Mom, we got it! We got the house!" They had no down payment. Guess who gave them 10 grand to cover it? Not because they asked, because I believed in their start, because I remembered how it felt to have a door of your own to walk through after a long day. That's what I wanted for them, roots. But now, they treat me like a weed, something that grew in the cracks, unwanted, in the way. Funny how the same walls that once held my laughter now echo back silence when I walk by. But you want to know what they forgot? I helped build that silence. I laid the foundation with sleepless nights, sacrifice, and love. They never even noticed. This wasn't just a house. It was mine before it was theirs. It started small. I'd knock at the door and wait longer than usual. Sometimes I'd stand there 5, 6 minutes before someone bothered to open. Other times the lights were on, the TV was blaring, but no one answered. When they finally did, it was Tina. "Oh, hey, we weren't expecting you." She'd glance behind her, like I was an interruption, like the woman who gave them that down payment had just shown up uninvited. I used to walk in without knocking. Now I felt like I needed a damn appointment. Then it was the dinners. I'd make pot roast, Alex's favorite, drop it off in glass containers like I always had. Next week I'll find the containers in the garage, still full, moldy. Tina told me they were trying a plant-based cleanse. Alex said nothing, just nodded, eyes low, like a scolded kid who didn't want to take sides. But he did take sides, every single day. Then one morning I dropped by with muffins for Logan. The door was cracked open. I heard Tina talking. "She's always here. It's exhausting." Alex mumbled something. "She acts like this is still her house. We need boundaries." I froze, muffins in hand, heart in pieces. I left them on the porch. I didn't even knock. That night, I went home and cried into a tea towel, not because they didn't eat my food, not because they forgot my birthday, because they forgot who I was. The woman who stitched that family together when it was fraying, the woman who held Alex through court dates, scraped knees, and graduation heartbreaks. The woman who watched their kid while they went on a honeymoon I helped pay for. But now, I was too much, too available, too present, too inconvenient. One Sunday, I brought Logan a new book for bedtime. Tina took it from me like it was a biohazard. "We're doing screen-free Montessori right now. Books confuse the routine." I looked at Logan. His little face fell. I whispered, "You'll get it later, sweet pea," and walked out. But the final blow? They installed a gate. A digital security gate, with a keypad. No one told me. I stood there, arms full of groceries for a family dinner I'd prepped all day, locked out like a solicitor. No code, no warning, just a cold beep and a steel barrier. I texted Alex. No reply. I stood there in the fading light until the groceries started to sweat and wilt in my arms. That's when I knew. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't stress. This was deliberate. They didn't want me in their lives. They just didn't have the guts to say it out loud. That night after the gate, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea I didn't even want. The steam curled into the air like a question I didn't have the answer to. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. Instead, I just sat still, and I listened. No wind, no birds, just the quiet hum of someone who'd hit the edge of her generosity. They thought silence meant surrender, that if I didn't scream, I'd accept it. But silence has teeth, and mine were starting to show. I looked over at the house I helped them buy, its lights glowing warmly like a hearth I no longer belonged to. That used to be my dream, a family home, generations connected by porch steps and backyard birthdays. But what do you do when the house you built turns its back on you? You don't bang on the door, you build a better one. That's when the thought came, not loud, but clear. Buy the house next door. It was just sitting there, an old craftsman style, overgrown yard, windows dusty, but bones still strong. I'd watched it for years, waiting for someone to love it again. Now, maybe that someone was me. I pulled out the deed to my own home. My name, bold, legal, untouchable, stared back at me. Tina forgot who she was dealing with. She forgot I was the one who negotiated 3 jobs while raising Alex alone. She forgot I paid off my mortgage 10 years early, that I'd kept every receipt, every statement, every dime accounted for. She played emotional chess with someone who had the whole damn board memorized. So I called my banker the next morning, not crying, not bitter, just factual. Let's talk about buying a second property. He chuckled. Retirement project? No, I said, it's something quieter than that, just reclaiming some space. Within a week, I had the pre-approval letter. Within 2, I'd walked through the empty rooms of the house next door, each one echoing with possibility. The wallpaper was peeling, the floor creaked in protest, but I saw what others wouldn't. I saw freedom, a kitchen I could cook in without judgment, a garden I could tend without whispers, a front porch that faced them, not in spite, but in reminder. They thought they pushed me out. What they didn't realize? I was planting roots closer than ever. They gave me a boundary, so I drew my own line. Bolder, stronger, legal. The day I closed on the house next door, I didn't tell a soul. No announcement, no grand reveal. Just a quiet signature in a quiet office on a quiet Tuesday morning. The lawyer slid the papers across the table. Congratulations, Ms. Barlow, he said, shaking my hand. I nodded. Thank you. It feels overdue. He didn't ask why a woman in her 70s would want a second house. Alone. Smart man. I walked out with the keys in my purse and a calm that sat deep in my chest. Not the frantic kind, not payback, just peace in the form of ownership. I stopped at the bakery on the way home, picked up a loaf of sourdough and a lemon tart. Small things, but symbols matter. That night, I stepped inside my new home for the first time as its rightful owner. No one to ask, no one to answer to, just me and the echo of my own breath. The floorboards creaked under my feet like they were waking up. The windows were dirty, the walls needed paint, but it was mine. I lit a candle in the living room, opened the windows, and let the air sweep through like a blessing. They had tried to exile me, but I had rerouted myself just 30 feet away, and I didn't need to knock. The next morning, I stood on the front porch, sipping my coffee as Alex backed his car out of the driveway. He glanced over, did a double take, eyes squinting, as if the sight of me on a new porch didn't quite make sense. I raised my cup. Just a small wave, not smug, not sarcastic, just present. He rolled his window down halfway. Mom? Morning, I said, calm as linen. What are you doing there? Living, I said. This one's mine now. His jaw tightened. He didn't speak, just nodded slowly and drove off. Confused, maybe a little shaken. That was the thing about power. It didn't need to be loud. It didn't need to be mean. It just had to be yours. Inside, I started cleaning. I found an old rocking chair in the attic and dragged it down to the front porch, painted it white, hung a wind chime near the door, planted rosemary by the windows. Little things that made it home, not fancy, not flashy, just real. And every time I heard Tina's voice through their open windows, sharp, rushed, always in control, I just smiled and turned back to my own silence. They had no idea what was coming, because the paperwork was only part 1. The house was dusty, old curtain rods still clung to the walls, paint chipped, kitchen faucet was leaking. It didn't matter. I didn't buy it for what it was. I bought it for what it could become. For the first time in years, I moved through a space without tiptoeing. I didn't worry about waking anyone, didn't flinch at sharp tones or backhanded questions, didn't wonder if I was overstaying, overstepping, over anything. This house answered to me. Room by room, I made it mine. Not perfect, but intentional. I started with the bedroom, stripped the old wallpaper myself, hands steady from years of folding laundry and wiping tears. Painted it soft olive green, the color of stillness. Hung my wedding photo back above the bed, not for sentiment, but for grounding. He was gone, but I remembered who I had been with him, before the years carved silence between me and my own son. The kitchen came next. I bought copper pans, not because I needed them, but because I liked the sound they made when I hung them up. I arranged mugs on open shelves. Each one is different, each one mine. No one to complain that they didn't match, no one to roll their eyes. Every choice, every shelf, every color was a quiet rebellion against the years I shrank myself to fit into someone else's home. I wasn't shrinking anymore. I put wind chimes on the back porch. You could hear them faintly if you stood in the right spot, like music floating across the yard. Alex never said anything about them, but I saw him pause one evening, coffee in hand, listening. That's the thing about reclaiming space. You don't have to shout. You just exist, fully, and those who pushed you out, they'll feel your presence anyway. I brought out the old teacups I'd packed away when Tina told me their kitchen had a modern aesthetic. Turns out, memory doesn't go out of style. Every time I set a cup down, it was like placing a brick in a new foundation, mine. No apology, no compromise. Peace didn't look like revenge. It looked like my morning sun hitting clean windows, my own bed, my own silence, and a door no one could slam in my face again. If you've ever felt erased, if you've ever rebuilt something from scratch just to feel whole again, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this, where quiet women reclaim loud legacies. I saw them before they saw me, or maybe they saw me first and just didn't know how to approach a woman they'd tried to forget. From the upstairs window, I'd catch glimpses. Tina is out on their back deck, watering plants she never used to care about. Alex is pacing by the fence line, pretending to be on the phone, eyes drifting toward my side of the yard. Even Logan, sweet boy, occasionally pops his little head over the fence like a curious squirrel. But no words, no "hi mom," no apologies. Just silence. And honestly, I preferred it that way, because silence can cut both ways. They weren't ignoring me anymore. They were watching, curious, unsettled, confused. They thought pushing me out meant I'd disappear. But I didn't leave. I planted myself right next door, and I flourished. Every morning I'd sweep the porch humming an old tune. Not for show, just because it felt good to hear myself. I started baking again, pies, biscuits, banana bread, the scent wafting right over that thin strip of grass between us. Tina could pretend not to smell it, but I saw the twitch in her nose. Logan came the closest. One day, I saw a paper airplane land on my porch. No note, just doodles and stars. I smiled and left a slice of banana bread on the porch rail the next morning. It was gone within the hour. Small things, soft exchanges, but no conversations. They were waiting for me to knock. I didn't. I had knocked once, years ago, holding a pie and a heart full of hope, and they had slammed the door without blinking. Now I have my own door, and if they wanted to talk, they'd have to walk over on their own feet. Let the guilt grow legs. Let their silence marinate in the smell of cinnamon and fresh paint. Let them see what peace looks like when it's earned, not begged for. I started keeping my garden tidy, not because they could see it, but because I could. Planted roses by the fence. They bloomed faster than I expected. Some things thrive once they're no longer choked by shade. I didn't glance their way often, but when I did, Tina's face was tight. Alex's, unreadable. Let them wrestle with that. They had underestimated me once, thought I'd vanish quietly, but I was still here, still standing, still blooming, and I didn't have to say a word. It was late afternoon when I heard it. 3 knocks, not loud, not hesitant either. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wiped flour off my hands and peered through the front window, and there he was, Alex. Same slouched shoulders, same face I once cradled after nightmares. Only now, older, tired, like someone who hadn't slept right in weeks. I didn't open the door right away. Let him wait. Not out of spite, but because I'd learned that not every knock deserves an immediate answer. Finally, I turned the handle. The door creaked just slightly, enough for his voice to slide through. "Hey, Mom." It landed softer than I expected. I said nothing, just stood there, arms crossed, apron still dusted in flour. He held out a small folder. "Logan's school asked for some emergency contacts. He drew something, said you should see it." I took it, not breaking eye contact. Inside was a scribbled crayon drawing, me, Logan, and Alex sitting under a big tree. Across the top, Grandma's house, real home. I felt it before I let myself feel it, a slow, warm ache in the chest. He looked down at the porch floorboards. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he said. "I just wanted you to know Logan hasn't forgotten. Neither have I." I leaned against the doorframe, still quiet, still letting the silence do the talking. "I saw the roses," he said suddenly. "Logan thinks you planted them for him." "I planted them for me," I replied flatly. "But if he likes them, that's fine too." A pause. He nodded, eyes glancing past me into the kitchen. "Still bake?" "Sometimes." Another pause. He shifted his weight like he wanted to say more, like maybe he practiced a speech on the walk over, but forgot every word the moment he saw me. "Anyway," he mumbled, backing down the steps. "Thanks for opening the door." "I didn't say come back," I replied. He nodded again. "I know." Then he turned and walked away. No begging, no drama, just that small drawing and a man who finally had to face what he'd turned his back on. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let the quiet settle again. He didn't apologize, but maybe that wasn't the point. Sometimes the absence of resistance is the beginning of repair. It was the smell of cinnamon that got me. Not the fake kind from a candle or plug-in. The real thing, baked into the walls of old kitchens, clinging to wooden spoons and aprons that have seen too many holidays. I was making rolls, not for anyone, just because. The dough was stubborn, kept sticking. My hands were tired, but I kept kneading anyway, because some habits are louder than silence. As the oven warmed, I turned on the old stereo, Frank Sinatra. "I've Got You Under My Skin." God, that song. We used to dance to it in the living room, me, Alex, and his father, back before everything cracked. The kitchen smelled like 1996. I almost set the table for 3. Almost. I walked past the fridge and saw the blank spot where family photos used to be. I didn't take them down to punish anyone. I took them down because they were starting to lie. People smiling who hadn't smiled in years. Faces frozen in love that no longer existed. So I replaced them with something new. A grocery list. A note from the mailman. A Polaroid of the roses blooming at the edge of the garden. Truth, not performance. The timer dinged. I pulled the rolls out and cracked one open with my hands. Steam swirled up, just like it used to when Logan would beg me to let him eat one early. He'd blow on it dramatically, like a cartoon dragon, before shoving the whole thing in his mouth. "Too hot, baby," I'd warn. He never listened. I smiled to myself. Not bitter, just still holding space. That's what grief is, really. Not always sobbing in the dark or slamming doors. Sometimes it's making dinner for no one. Sometimes it's hearing a song that splits your chest wide open. Sometimes it's remembering birthdays no one else does. I walked out to the porch, roll in hand, and sat on the swing. The air was cool, just a hint of fall, leaves crunching in the wind. Next door, I saw the curtains shift. A shadow in the window, small, Logan's height. He hadn't come back, not yet. But maybe he was looking. Maybe he was remembering too. I took a bite. Still warm, still perfect, still mine. And for a moment, that was enough. I was trimming the hedge when the mailman came up the walk, slower than usual. He handed me a single envelope, cream-colored, heavy paper, Tina's lawyer's logo on the corner. I didn't open it right away. I finished the hedge. I swept the porch. I brewed tea and let the envelope sit like a guest I didn't invite. Then I sliced it open. Inside, a letter filled with legalese and arrogance. Tina was contesting the previous court decision, claiming emotional distress, loss of security, and, my favorite, unjust enrichment on my part. Unjust enrichment? The woman who forged my name, kicked me out of the house I helped build, and served me store-bought pie like it was a favor? I laughed, out loud. Tea almost came out of my nose. She wanted mediation. She wanted leverage. She wanted control again. But here's what she didn't know. While she was busy building lies, I'd been building my case. Not out of revenge, out of clarity. Every receipt, every mortgage cosign, every text she forgot could be printed. I had it all. And more importantly, I had time. Tina underestimated that. She thought I'd fold like I always did. But that version of me? She's gone. I called my lawyer, calm as sunrise. Let's respond, I said, but make it surgical. 2 weeks later, Tina got her answer. Not just in the courtroom, but in life. The judge dismissed her motion within 5 minutes, cited a clear history of manipulation, documented deception, and a lack of standing. She didn't just lose the appeal. She triggered a review of her own assets and income disclosures. Oops. But that wasn't the real sting. The real sting? Logan didn't sit with her that day. He sat in the back row, next to Alex, next to me. He held my hand the entire time. After court, Tina passed me in the hallway. Her eyes were wild, cornered animal kind of wild. She didn't speak. She just looked, like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the doormat, not the woman she could gaslight or guilt, the woman who beat her without raising her voice. She walked out alone, no apology, no eye contact, no power. I stood still, not triumphant, just rooted. Because that's what women like me do. We wait, we watch, we outlive the chaos. And when the dust settles, we're still standing, still quiet, still holding the deed. I started waking up before the sun, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. There's a difference. For the first time in decades, there wasn't anyone pulling at me, calling from the kitchen, or expecting a plate at the table before I'd had my first sip of coffee. The mornings belonged to me now. I'd slip on my robe, the soft blue one, not the faded hand-me-down they once threw in the donation pile, and step onto the porch of my home. No alarms, no tension, just the sound of the wind brushing the white fence Logan and I painted together. It's strange how peace can feel so foreign when you've lived under noise for too long. Even the silence had to be relearned. At first I filled it. I rearranged furniture. I cleaned out the drawers. I organized old recipes. But slowly, I stopped needing to fill every second, stopped needing to do, and just was. One morning, I found a tiny bakery 3 blocks away, a little place with uneven tiles and butter in the air. I bought a cinnamon bun and sat by the window. The cashier smiled. First time here? I nodded. You look like someone who knows how to make those herself, I smiled back. I used to. Then you should come on Saturdays. We run classes, old school stuff, no machines. I didn't commit, just tucked the card into my coat. But I came back the next week, and the week after. On the 3rd Saturday, I brought my old apron, the one with Mom's kitchen stitched into it, stained with stories. A young woman, maybe in her 30s, asked, "Did you used to run a bakery?" I laughed. No, just a life. We made scones that day, and I remembered how it felt to knead dough without bitterness. I wasn't baking for a family that took me for granted. I was baking because I wanted to. That matters. Evenings became sacred. I'd light a candle, put on soft jazz, read books I never finished in the chaos. Sometimes I'd write letters to myself, tiny affirmations on scrap paper. You are not a leftover. You are not a placeholder. You are the entire story. Alex started texting updates. Logan's drawings, school photos, and a picture of him holding a second-place science fair ribbon. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't have to. He was showing up, one memory at a time. And Tina vanished. No more emails. No more threats, just silence. I didn't need revenge. I had rhythm, I had roots, I had me. It was December again, the kind where frost clings to the windows and the whole world feels paused under a heavy white sky. My porch light flickered on around 5 p.m. now, shorter days, nights quieter. I hadn't put up decorations in years, no wreaths, no lights, no fake reindeer in the yard, but this year felt different. I pulled the box from the attic. The old one, marked Xmas in fading black marker. Inside were frayed strings of lights, a chipped angel topper, and a paper ornament Logan had made when he was 5. A snowman with 2 left arms and my name scribbled across the belly, "For Grandma." My hands trembled, not from cold, from remembering. A few days later, Alex texted, "Logan wants to drop something off. Would that be okay?" Just 3 years ago, that message would have sent me spiraling, overthinking, bracing. Now, I just replied, Tell him to come hungry. They pulled up around 6. Logan hopped out first, grinning widely, holding a foil-wrapped dish like it was a treasure. I helped make stuffing, he said proudly. Alex followed behind, awkward as always, holding a tiny gas station Christmas tree. Still had the price tag dangling from the bottom. I didn't say a word, just opened the door. Dinner was quiet but not strained, the good kind of quiet. We passed plates, sipped cider. Logan told me about school and a kid who tried to eat a pencil. Alex mostly listened, occasionally smiled. When dessert came, I brought out my cinnamon rolls. Not as fluffy as yours, he said, half laughing. That's because mine have history, I replied, and we both knew I wasn't just talking about dough. After dinner, Logan asked, "Can I put something on your fridge?" He pulled 3 drawings from his backpack, crayon masterpieces. One was of a small house with smoke curling from the chimney and hearts in the windows. Another showed 3 people on a porch swing under a tree. The third was me, wearing my apron, holding a pie. Above it, in messy, slanted letters, "Real Christmas." I didn't cry, not then. But later, when they left, I stood in the doorway for a long time, watching the taillights disappear into the dark, and I thought, this is what they almost took from me. This is what I reclaimed, not with lawyers, not with yelling, but with silence, strength, and roots they forgot I had. Revenge? They thought it was about power, but it was always about peace. And now, the only noise in my home is laughter. The message came in the middle of January. Tina, blocked for nearly 2 years, but somehow still managed to slither her way back. Not with an apology, not with acknowledgement, just a single, sterile text from a new number. Logan School is asking for updated emergency contacts. Can you add me back? No greeting, no warmth, just a demand, dressed up as formality. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I made tea, sat by the window, watched the cardinals peck at the frozen feeder. Then I typed 4 words. Please contact Alex directly. Send. Blocked again. Simple. Final. Because here's the truth. Forgiveness is not a revolving door, and silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. A week later, Alex dropped by. Not planned. Not dramatic. He had Logan with him, bundled in too many scarves and proudly dragging a science fair volcano. Hope this isn't bad timing, Alex said. It's never bad timing when you knock, I answered. That was the new rule. Respect earns return. Anything less gets left outside. We shared cocoa that afternoon, watched Logan test his volcano in the backyard using baking soda and way too much red food coloring. It fizzed, it failed. He laughed anyway, and I thought, there was a time I would have cried over a mess like that. Now, I handed him a mop, handed Alex a towel, and laughed with them. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about presence. Later, Alex asked quietly, Tina said she tried reaching out. I told her not to. I didn't say much, just nodded. I'm not asking you to talk to her, he added. I guess I want you to know, I see it now, all of it. I looked at him. You don't need to explain anymore, I said. Just keep showing up. The porch light clicked on automatically as they left. Logan waved from the back seat. Alex gave a little 2-finger salute, and I stood there, not as the woman they once removed from their lives, but as the woman who decided she'd never again disappear for anyone's comfort. Because boundaries aren't punishments, they're gates. They let in what's safe, keep out what's poison, and they're not made with barbed wire, but with wisdom. They all thought I wanted back in, that I was chasing belonging. But I wasn't. I had already built my own place, next door, close enough for love, far enough from harm, and that, right there, was my final act of revenge, a peaceful life, on my terms. The house is quiet again, but it's not lonely. There's a difference. Loneliness is waiting for someone to knock. Peace is knowing you don't need them to. I sip tea under the porch awning now, not because I'm passing time, but because I enjoy the stillness. No slammed doors. No whispered criticisms. No walking on eggshells in a home I paid for. Just breeze, a creaky swing, and the sound of Logan's laughter 2 yards away. He visits often. Sometimes he brings drawings, sometimes just silence. Both are welcome. A year ago, I thought revenge would look like a court battle. I thought it would sound like an apology, feel like triumph. It didn't. It looked like a clean set of keys, smelled like fresh paint and lilacs, and felt like finally breathing with my whole chest. Tina? Still distant? Alex? Still learning? Me? I'm not waiting for either to catch up, because the truth is, I was never the villain in their story. I was the one they tried to write out. But I held the original script, and I remembered every scene they tried to forget. There's an old photo on my fridge now. Logan drew it, of course. 3 houses, mine, theirs, and one in the middle he made up, in case we need a sleepover spot, he said. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the magnet, but it stuck, right there beside the note that says, Grandma's house, Wange safe zone, written in crayon. Spelled wrong. Perfect. Some people think power is loud, that it comes with shouting and slamming and being right. But power, real power, is a woman who doesn't flinch when she's told to leave. She just bought the house next door and waters her garden. I walk past their fence now without bitterness, not because I've forgotten, but because I finally understand. You don't need to burn bridges when you've built your own damn road. So to anyone who's ever been told they don't belong, who's been squeezed out, written off, or cast aside, I see you. And here's what I learned. You don't need their welcome. You need your own key. If you've ever been pushed out by the people you gave everything to, if you've ever sat in silence wondering where you went wrong, or if you're finally ready to stop asking for a seat at a table you built, subscribe. Because this space is for the underestimated, for the quiet builders, for the ones who remember everything.